From athletes to authors, entertainers to innovators, we connect with those who help shape our culture. Join us in revealing stories of their lives and backgrounds, their triumphs and tragedies that molded them into who they are today. Authentically off-script and personally illuminating, this is Audibles with Jason Scarborough. This week on Audibles, Butch Thompson.
So your story starts December 15th, 1970 in Aberdeen, but you went to high school at Amory High School. So how would you describe growing up there in North Mississippi?
Well, home's always going to be home. And when you're from Mississippi, it's always a part of you. And I'm sure anywhere else is the same. But, yep, born in Aberdeen, Mississippi. Did all my schooling in Amory, so a good 10, 12 miles away. And absolutely grew up right in the middle. So now that I'm in another state, I always use Coontail Road. So I tell everybody I'm from Coontail, Mississippi, just to ham up the speaking engagements. But I did. We would have to pick and choose. Well, are we going to Aberdeen to the store? We're going to Amory to the store. It's the same distance. But, you know, I'm thankful to be from both places and claim both. But I did do my schooling and was an Amory Panther there growing up through all my education.
How would you describe your family growing up?
A dad that worked hard, a GED, National Guard, worked in the it was Conoco. It changed names. Just the best job you could get with the GED at that time. Those chemical plants that are floating around the state. Unfortunately, it, of course, curbed his life expectancy a great deal. My mom, same thing. She was adopted. There was a professor at Mississippi State that took her in down in Starkville, and they met way too young and had me way too young. And me and my mom kind of grew up together. She was 17, 18 when she had me, and she's one of the dearest people in my life, my biggest fan. And it's amazing through all these years, especially 2 decades plus being in the SEC, you could have 15, 10,000, whatever we brag about having in an SEC stadium. And when she does her little soft voice of like, go Butch or good job, I can hear through every bit of it. Just an amazing spirit. And so my mom and dad were great to me. The Thompson family, my immediate family, if you go my grandparents, aunts and uncles, you could probably put 2 dots or 2 cones 10 miles apart, and they're all still there, you know, that's still living. And I guess I was the black sheep of the family when I jumped out and came over to Alabama to go to Birmingham Southern College and started that journey. But everybody, my brother, all my family is still right there, basically right down Coontail Road.
You mentioned your brother just now. How many siblings did you have?
Just a younger brother, Timmy. It's Tim. You know, when you get later in life, he drops it's just Tim now, but he'll always be Timmy to me. He was 6 years younger. Proud of him. He works at the North Mississippi Medical Center. So he takes pictures. He works in the heart area and works in nuclear medicine. So the x-rays and stuff. We both went to Itawamba Community College, and then I went on to Birmingham Southern. He came behind me 6 years later. Played at Itawamba as well. And then I think it was the University of Tennessee at Memphis had this deal where like they were working with the Tupelo Hospital there that if you will pay for your school, if you'll come back and work for 5 years. And I think he's heading toward 30 years now where he went to Memphis, got his degree, came back, gave him his 5 years, and now I think he's done almost 25 more. So that was a pretty good deal, but it's kept him close to home, and he's had an amazing career himself.
Were you the first athlete from your family, or were they all athletic, or you really the first one?
Well, I was probably the first to get the opportunities because of the schooling. You know, a lot of people brag that I'm the first one to get a college degree. I'm almost one of the first ones to get a high school degree. And think about this day and time.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. But I know being the first person to get a college degree from my immediate family. So proud of that. And I guess sports did give me that opportunity, the people that invested in me. You know, Amory. I was a Tupelo 49er, a Legion ball. I'm always proud of that heritage. I walked on and played for the great Roy Crescent, who the field's named after at Itawamba Community College, one of my greatest influences in life. Bobby Hall, which we were talking about off air before we got here, somebody probably the first one that gave me confidence. Confidence comes from acquiring skill. I believe that with all my heart. He poured that into me. You start playing for a state championship and somebody telling you can do something. He was my confidence piece. Coach Cressup took me under his wing. So sports afforded me the opportunity to get a college education. And hey, I'm working on my 4th decade of trying to repay that, what that's supposed to look like with the young people that I get an opportunity to coach now. It's every day as I'm trying to, these people invested in me, I've been still trying to return the favor now going on 4 decades.
Gosh, great names that you just mentioned there that invested in you. Do you have a favorite Bobby Hall quote? I got to ask this. Since we're talking about Coach Hall, he's got a lot of them that you can mention on air.
Well, I don't even know if I can remember that. Those things kind of fade away. They do. There was some toughness. That was back in the day where, you get the managers to line up all the water, and if that session didn't go good, the table could get flipped over. So I remember that. The words were more like Charlie Brown's school teacher. Why? But the act of throwing the table over, and some people more my age, they'll remember these practice football fields. They wasn't all lined off and pretty. They had not been air-fied or verticutted. So in the summertime, and that 2 days in August, it was like hitting concrete. And they didn't paint these beautiful white lines on the practice field. They killed it with diesel fuel. I just remember landing on the yard lines and just taking in a big inhale of diesel fuel is what I remember. But I remember the look more than the words. And to this day now, we're talking about, that's a long time ago, since senior year of 1988 at Amory High School, to where your high school football coach is still calling you, still touching base, still helping you keep up with your well-dones. That's it. Somebody can say something, but the staying power of your whole life and a relationship for your whole life, that's probably, as a baseball coach, where I'd tip my hat to Bobby Hall. So I always love asking this question. How would you describe Butch Thompson in high school? I'm an identity guy. I would say now that I've developed my own strategies and what I could invest in a young person is knowing who you are is very important. And I just didn't know who I was. Played my last high school football game at 16. I told you we had it rough, grew up in a trailer, and mom and dad. So when I was 5 years old, they could send me to school. So I went probably a year or two too early. And I was my whole time through school, I was the youngest guy in the class, the youngest guy in the school for his grade. And that was hard. Everybody was driving before I was driving. And there was some immaturity involved in me being the youngest. Once I got to college and gained that 30 or 40 pounds and being young started being a benefit, it swung back in my favor. But all through school, it was hard because they needed me to get on that bus when I was 5 instead of somebody trying to keep me where they both could go to work. So that was kind of uphill. I regretted, moved on, but regretted being 16 and that's your last high school football game. That was probably the first love. And I think I could have played it. I think I could have really played it if I could have been 17 or 18 years old still playing high school football. Regret's the wrong word to use at the time. But looking back, that was a journey. Always being the youngest is tough. I look and see where these guys are. Major League Baseball looks at it heavily at a person's age. But that was kind of my journey, and I look for that and try to help people that had that deal. But I had love like crazy. We talked about the coaches, and I got parents and grandparents. And like I said, we all lived on the same road. I was the first grandchild. That's an advantage because everybody's going to take care of the first one. And so I was just blessed beyond belief. But I kind of got started pretty early.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
Mississippi farmers raise over 800,000 head of cattle each year. We take care of our livestock so you get what's good for your family on your table. We are only one of thousands, but we are united as one to grow the food, fiber, and shelter you need every day. Mississippi needs farmers. The farm families of Mississippi.
It all starts with an idea, but how do you make it a reality? At Common House Productions, we specialize in creative and tailored video content. Whether it's crafting a story from the beginning or simply bringing your idea to life, we can help you bridge that gap and produce video content that shines. Common House Productions.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
The fabric of any community is its people. It's the commitment to hard work and to be our best. It's where you know your neighbor by name. It's where family is important. At Covington County Hospital, we are your family and friends. That's why your healthcare is important to us. From emergency room visits to primary care to behavioral health, we want to make sure that healthcare is available when you need it. Covington County Hospital, where your healthcare matters.
So football was you said it was your first love?
Yeah.
Where's your love for baseball come from, you think?
I was probably better at baseball. And just the size and the age, I think, were huge contributors to football, but football not being realistic for me. Now, I woke up my sophomore year of junior college baseball, and I graduated high school at 175, and then I'm 225 as a sophomore in college. I wish I'd have been, still in high school. So all that stuff come to me late. I've never been the best player on my team. And the age had something to do with it, but I always knew I had the leadership piece. And I think that youth, getting back to the original part, is I couldn't figure out who I was. I love a Bruce Lee quote where he says, "I'm not scared of the man that's done 10,000 kicks one time. I'm scared of the man that's done one kick 10,000 times." So I had to work through every bit of that, and I try to tell young people, because once I really committed to baseball, it took off. And then here come that age thing not being as big of a factor. And then I figured out, this is who I am. This is my purpose. This is my calling. So that wound up being huge. And, I'm a guy that didn't play baseball his senior year of high school. I was so into the football deal. I was going to go to Etowah and play football. So, of course, Coach Hall let me coach spring football. And I was a captain of my high school football team. I was a captain of my junior college baseball team. I had the captain gene, is what I've always kind of had. And so I knew I was going to coach when I was coaching high school football, So he let me come out and train and lift. And even though I'm still a student, I'm sitting here coaching a position that I just played because he invested in me that much. So I want young people to figure out who they are as soon as they possibly can. You can't force it. I mean, look at Colonel Sanders on the chicken box. He doesn't look that young, right? And some of these best companies have been started. Walmart, 52 years old. And, Colonel Sanders, like I mentioned, 66 years old. So it doesn't always come. But in my world, in athletics, it needs to. At some point, if you're going to be great in the Southeastern Conference. So I think identity is the biggest piece that I'd put on a young person, because when I found my identity, I really started creating some precision. The Bruce Lee quote, I really started working on that one skill, that one craft, that ability to pitch and maybe create a two-seamer. And Coach Cressup got me and started teaching me how to move the ball and lift the ball and not let that guy get comfortable and taking the sting out of the swing. And that started there. But once I started really understanding who I was and started not changing my delivery or doing something different every week, when I really focused into one thing, that's how I got better.
You mentioned Itawamba Community College, then you went to Birmingham, mentioned Birmingham Southern. It's a unique distinction there. Your athletic director here, Coach Cohen, spent some time, I still call him Coach Cohen.
Yeah.
He spent some time at Birmingham Southern, and it seems like that school has shaped a lot of baseball minds in the South. How would you describe your experience at Birmingham Southern?
Yeah, and John played just before I got there. He's a lot older than I am. I came a little bit after, but there was another Mississippi State influence. You know, John played 1 year, then he went with Coach Polk and those guys to Mississippi State. And Pat McMahon is another huge influence personally for me from a pitching standpoint. But the guy that left Mississippi State, that coached John at Mississippi State, that came to Birmingham Southern, was my head coach, was Brian Shoup, and was just an amazing man. So Birmingham Southern was an awesome school. It was a private school. It was like Coontail Road. There wasn't many people. There's 1,200 people. It was really small, so that was comfortable for me. It was extremely difficult. A private academic liberal arts institution that stretched me beyond belief. If you can see me from Coontail, even though it was 2.5 hours away, coming over to Birmingham Southern, but it was great for me. Met my wife Robin there, but I found Brian Shoup there. I found a coach that poured into me. You started with the date, and that was my birth date, but my real date, where I was born, was August 5th, 1992, when I accepted Christ. And it was because of, I had an influence. He wasn't just a coach, but he absolutely poured into us. He gave me the template to coach, where there's some things that are bigger than ball, and the baseball is really important to all of us. But at the end of the day, to be a coach, to try to make a difference, he poured that into us. And I didn't for the 2 years I played there. But right afterward, the next month, I'm like, what was he trying to teach me? And what was he trying to do? And I just became overwhelmed. And there's a lot of great pastors that I've heard great sermons from, and us going to church, and mentors and people that poured into me. But my example was with my coach. And so I have to, Brian Shoup's the greatest influence in my life as a man, a walking man. And he just happened to be my coach. And I know, because I can tell about every player like me that played for him through the years, that I don't feel like I have figured out how to have the same impact, but it's been a pursuit. And because of what he taught me, I've tried to find my way to not make anybody comfortable, but in our lessons and what we're teaching. Baseball is a great teacher of life. And so it's an unbelievable game to teach skill, to breed confidence, but really create present some great life lessons.
You had a chance, if I remember the timeline correctly, you had a chance, of course we mentioned your time there as a player, but you had a chance to come back and coach with Coach Shoup for a period of time, if I remember the timeline correctly.
Yeah, so he kicked me to the curb the first year. So I graduated, I accepted Christ. He kicked me to Huntington College. That's where I started my career in Montgomery, Alabama. Very similar school, same conference. New head coach, Scott Patterson, was a first-time head coach, wound up being an amazing friend, poured into me as well. But Coach didn't want me playing with the same players, didn't want me coaching the guys I just played with. So I went away from 1 year to Huntington, and then I wound up coming to Birmingham Southern. And yeah, we had probably 8-year run together, which capped it off with a national championship. We were NAIA baseball at that time in 2001. Yeah. So we won national championship 2001. We went to 4 or 5 World Series and kept getting our hearts broken, and finally climbed that mountain together. And then after that season is when 2002, I began my career in the Southeastern Conference at the University of Georgia. And I would have never had an opportunity. Back in that time, NAIA coaches didn't go to become SEC, coaches, and somebody that never played at that level. So his influence was not only for eternity with me, he was such a good coach. He was winning souls and winning national championships and developing and investing in a coach like me for me to be able to go and enter the Southeastern Conference was because of Brian Shoup.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
At Atmos Energy, we believe affordable, reliable, and efficient natural gas is essential to achieving a low-carbon energy future. We're committed to helping protect the environment by providing smart choice solutions to help customers reduce energy use and lower their carbon footprint. Get a rebate up to $600 off qualifying high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
Looking for your next unforgettable experience? Come explore Cypress Point, Mississippi's premier event venue, offering breathtaking spaces for weddings, gatherings, and special moments. Get wild on our one-of-a-kind safari tours, where adventure is just a ride away. Then kick back at the tavern, where great food, cold drinks, and good times are always on the menu. And don't miss the live music every week at Cameron's Garage, the new hotspot for the best local tunes and late-night fun. Experience it all at Cypress Point, where memories are made and adventure is just the beginning.
From the seed, and the soil grows row after row. We take care of this land, using just the right amount of our natural resources and never more than we need.
We're only one of thousands, but we are united as one to grow the food, fiber, and shelter you need every day. Because Mississippi needs us. Mississippi needs farmers, the farm families of Mississippi.
It has often been said that home is where the heart is. It's where hard-working and dedicated people form the fabric of a thriving community. At Covington County Hospital, it's our priority to help keep our community safe, healthy, and moving. With our primary care clinics and services, we are working to keep you healthy. Because home is where the heart is. Home is where family matters. Covington County Hospital, where your health care matters.
You mentioned being at Georgia, so you just talked about NAIA. You go from that to the SEC, which of course had to be your goal when you started out on this pursuit of coaching. So that first year in Georgia, what was that experience like?
Swimming, it's a big jump, right? All these guys that we get to coach, you just think about they're the best, they're the three-hole hitter, they're the best wherever they come from, and then they jump in this SEC, and every hitter on our roster is probably a three-hole hitter where they came from, and somebody's going to hit ninth, etc. Same thing for me. There was a level of player, a good level of player, that we were coaching, but the SEC was another level. And in all honesty, it worked because, in year 4, we wound up going to Omaha ourselves, getting to compete in the College World Series, Rosenblatt. I'm so thankful for that. Or I may have never gotten an opportunity to coach in the old venue. So I've been blessed because of that. But for 2 years, the right person to recruit, I had to start aiming higher because you got that level. And we'd not mastered that level, been highly competitive at that level and did win a championship. But that SEC, finding the right guys to recruit, because I was trying to play recruiting coordinator and pitching coach. And in all honesty, I didn't get much sleep for 2 years. And then it started clicking in about year 3 for me there at Georgia. So I don't think I've ever really articulated that to anybody. But, that's an advisement if you're coming from a smaller place coming into this level. And that's why you see so many people in the Southeastern Conference. They hire people with SEC experience. It's because, man, it seems like everything happens so fast. You don't always have a year or two to wait for somebody to catch up to the speed of the game and the level of the game and the quality of the product.
So it sounds like those years you spent in Georgia, were important in shaping you into the coach you would eventually become. Like you said, making that big jump, swimming as you called it, and it sounds like it shaped a lot of who you are now.
Yeah, through the struggles, right?
Yeah.
And when you have just a ton of success, and it wasn't, we never just were in total failure. It was just always hard. I was trying to get respect with other coaches in this league when you'd go, and you just don't get that instant respect. You have to earn it. So you had to start from ground zero there. A recruiting class, am I recruiting a good enough pitcher? Am I recruiting a good enough shortstop? Am I recruiting the field good enough to give Coach David Perno, who I worked for at the time, Coach Polk had put his name on me. Darren Schoenrock was a pitching coach. They both left and went back to Mississippi State. If those two men put their name on me, man, I had to fight and claw and I had to earn my own way. And really, when you get to that level, you should already have a certain amount of acumen and know something. So you can't just pick up the phone every day and say, Coach Polk, tell me everything what to do. It's you got a FIO, as John Cohen is the FIO figured out guy. And that was when going to Georgia taught me FIO. And I had to figure a million things out on my own. But it's like when I was 25, I was a head junior college coach and didn't know what I was doing. But that was the best year of my life. Beginning at Georgia and starting in the SEC and having to figure out all these things and try to be competitive, that was probably my second and third best years in coaching that I look back on after all this time. That's helped me figure things out were those two experiences.
And in 2006, you came to the Plains for the first time as an assistant. And, we'll have to do this maybe down the road in part two, but, I have to think, now that you're here, do you ever look back at that time in 2006 and think, man, I would have never thought that I would have ended up back here as head baseball? It is an interesting journey, because after you were here in 2006, you ended up at Mississippi State. We'll talk about that in a second. But your first time here on the Plains, how would you describe that?
It was neat. Just moving from Georgia to here, I love Georgia. Loved our experience. Our youngest daughter, Madeline, who just started classes here at Auburn, was actually born in Athens Regional Medical Center. So that place will always be tremendous and special to us. But Robin had went ahead. You got to have an amazing wife. When I met Robin at Birmingham Southern, she was always incredible. And so I didn't even come straight to Auburn. I went recruiting for a week or so. That Atlanta, everybody knows amateur baseball, you go to Atlanta to recruit. So it's summertime, and I probably spent 6 days on the road before I ever came to Auburn. And I remember coming down College Street and coming up over the railroad tracks, and then here's downtown Auburn, and I park in a parking spot, and I called Robin. This is a story I tell with just how amazing your wife is. She had come ahead for a week. She had found a home, bought a home, and moved our family in a home on the strength of her back. And so I did. I had to stop downtown Auburn when I crossed those railroad tracks and parked, and I'm like, hey, what's the address to our house? And so I pulled up, and I'm like, you did a great job with the house and all that. So I'm sitting here giving all these coaches credit, and so many times I've taken her for granted the last 29 years. And then you just trigger something. That what was moving to Auburn was meant to me. It gave me, the first thing I felt was the sacrifice that your wife, your partner, can do for you, and how important it is. And if you see a turtle on a fence post, he didn't get there by himself. And I usually give a ton of credit to all these coaches that have shaped my life, but I would not be sitting here talking to you if it wasn't for Robin Thompson. And then as we talk about these coaching stops, who would ever thought spending 3 years here and then going to connect with John Cohen was another influential relationship that exists to today. All these things play off each other, and then the experience at Mississippi State was just coming home was unbelievable. And then the opportunity of a lifetime to come back, because I was an assistant for 23 years. And then Auburn University gives me an opportunity of a lifetime to lead a program. So I wouldn't have been at Auburn if it wasn't for Georgia. I wouldn't have been at Mississippi State if it wasn't for Auburn. And I wouldn't have been at Auburn if it wasn't for Mississippi State. And it's not just the names. It's actually you getting down and you're getting to the special people that you connect with on each of these stops. I like the turtle on the fence post deal. And somebody helps you get there. And every stop, there's been people to step up in the gap. But my one constant has been Robin, and she's been amazing. And I think a lot of coaches get to certain stages in life where, like, you start feeling a little weird and a little guilty because people are putting you in all these Hall of Shames, and you're getting all these pats on the back, and you really know, you start thinking about what your partner, what Robin, what my wife has really done for me the last 29 years. So I'm thankful for this, to be able to say that out loud.
She's the MVP, in other words, without a doubt.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
From our view on this farm, food security is national security. Our nation must have a sustainable food source. Keeping the supply chain moving and food on our grocery store shelves by growing the cleanest food in the world.
We're only one of thousands, but we are united as one to grow the food, fiber, and shelter you need every day, because Mississippi needs us. Mississippi needs farmers, the farm families of Mississippi.
It all starts with an idea, but how do you make it a reality? At Common House Productions, we specialize in creative and tailored video content. Whether it's crafting a story from the beginning or simply bringing your idea to life, we can help you bridge that gap and produce video content that shines. Common House Productions.
At Atmos Energy, we believe affordable, reliable, and efficient natural gas is essential to achieving a low-carbon energy future. We're committed to helping protect the environment by providing smart choice solutions to help customers reduce energy use and lower their carbon footprint. Get a rebate up to $600 off qualifying high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
Looking for your next unforgettable experience? Come explore Cypress Point, Mississippi's premier event venue, offering breathtaking spaces for weddings, gatherings, and special moments. Get wild on our one-of-a-kind safari tours, where adventure is just a ride away. Then kick back at the tavern, where great food, cold drinks, and good times are always on the menu. And don't miss the live music every week at Cameron's Garage, the new hot spot for the best local tunes and late-night fun. Experience it all at Cypress Point, where memories are made and adventure is just the beginning.
It's a tough life, and I don't know that people really, I don't think most fans understand the sacrifices that these wives, these mamas, that have husbands that are coaches or athletic directors. I don't think they understand the sacrifices that they make. And they are a special group of ladies. There's no doubt about that. So, and by the way, for all the fellas watching, Coach Thompson just, kind of gave you a little advice on what you need to do at home. Make sure that you know who the MVP is, and you tell her that she's the MVP. So.
And it's really because I failed. She raised their 3 daughters and those daughters. So I don't come from a point of of being higher than anybody. There's been so many mistakes I've made through the years, and she's just held us together time and time again, because that time away is a big deal, and that's a challenge for a coach. And the coaches I see go the furthest in this profession and be able to do it for a longer period of time I understand you got to be a good coach, but too, if you don't have some support there, some real support from who you're connected to, that shortens careers. I have seen that.
You mentioned those 7 seasons in Starkville with Coach Cohen, and then you get the opportunity that every coach dreams of. In 2016, you mentioned you get the opportunity to come to Auburn and lead the baseball program here. Take me back to that moment. I can't imagine what that moment was like for you personally. Professionally, it was awesome, obviously, but for you personally, can you take me back to that moment and what it was like for you?
I'd interviewed for some jobs because you got a David Perno, a Tom Slater, a Hal Baird, a Ron Polk, a John Cohen. You got some people in your corner. You'd built up some equity where people would be in your corner. But Probably the 5 years before, I'd interviewed for some jobs and stuff and probably wanted it, if I can be honest. Yeah. Probably wanted it really bad, and just the wrong way to go about it. And I think as soon as I released myself from that and kind of prayed over that, things got better. And then the Auburn thing happened after I'd kind of give up on that. You know, back at the time when I probably got the job at Auburn, you probably had to go to be a mid-major head coach and then get that opportunity to come to the SEC. So I'd kind of wrestled with it and kind of put it to bed. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. I did not want to leave coaching players in the Southeastern Conference with it being the highest level of amateur baseball on earth. That's what I felt then. That's what I feel today. I didn't want to leave it. And, you know, you get to play with get to coach Chris Strattons and the Kendall Gravemans and the Jonathan Holders and the Jacob Lingrens and the Brandon Woodruffs and the Dakota Hudsons. And you keep going through all these big leaguers.
It's a long list.
It's fun to work with them, you know, with these kind of players, these Lamborghinis, fun to work with. I had resided I'll be fine, and I'll keep serving. I've been serving for a very long time, and when I kind of put that to rest and the head coach opportunity came. So I don't know if it was one of those deals where it's like, man, he looks like he wants to be a head coach so bad that I don't want him. Or when I put it to rest, if like, man, that guy's got a good piece and way about him, and the timing just happened. I'd interviewed for Auburn a time before for their head coaching job. So at the time, Jay Jacobs, athletic director, he knew who I was. And the next time it came around, I think it was just probably a better fit for Auburn, for Jay Jacobs, and ultimately for me and my family. And, you know, the timing was right. Maybe if I'd have come sooner, we wouldn't have got to a regional this, you know, our first full season in the second year. So these things happen for a reason, and I'm thankful they did. And, man, it's been a good run, and hopefully the best is yet to come.
It's been a lot of success here, and really baseball had, for a while, they hadn't tasted Omaha. They hadn't tasted going to the College World Series. You know, what does that say about you and your staff here?
Well, people have worked hard, and players trusted us, right? So we had come, and when we went to the College World Series in 2019, the program hadn't been in 22 years. So, hey, that first recruiting class, that second recruiting class, they believed in Auburn before it happened. So I'm forever grateful. Those guys. I know I rattled off some Mississippi State pitchers earlier, but these first couple of classes here as a head coach at Auburn, they paved the way. Eventual first rounder and Casey Mize wanting to be at Auburn, you know, and then him being the first pick of the entire draft. Those guys invested and wanted to be here before that first World Series happens. A coach, I didn't realize how special those first couple of groups would be because I just hadn't been a head coach for a period of time. But we've built something up. There's always been great players here. A Frank Thomas, a Bo Jackson, a Tim Hudson, a Greg Olson, the kind of second to none type names that every program's proud of the players that have come before. We've had all that, but getting back to a World Series, I think, is something that's put, you know, a little gold lining on our program. We have raised the expectations of our program. So I think there was two ways to look at it, and you know, you stay in the fight and you move on to the next season. But you know, our players, our administration, our fans have absolutely built into sellouts, and we're expecting the big one. And now you know, when I got here, Omaha was like a vision, like when you lay down and go to sleep. Going into year 9, going to Omaha and competing for a national championship, we have Omaha dirt in our cleats, and I mean, we can see it now instead of it being a dream. And so that lets me know that we're absolutely moving in the right direction. Hopefully we'll keep pushing and not get comfortable with that, and see that, you know, last step of our program realized.
I want to go back. You referenced your faith a minute ago, and I've seen you at a lot of different places talking. You just talked about it here, how important it is to you. How does it play a role in your life every day?
Well, I think every morning when I get up, I'm like, you know, what's the one thing I can do to make a difference? I need help. I need help, and I need to be grounded. This world's so distracting. These young people that are coming through now, they're dealing with 10 times more things than what we've dealt with. It was a simpler time. These phones in their hand, this, this world, this whole thing of what's going on. So it's kind of like when you're flying, right? And they're doing the oxygen mask. Well, I got to put it on me first before I can help somebody to my left or to my right. So I use my faith not only as I want to pursue a relationship with Christ, because us guys and gals will all let each other down. So I want to pursue that because I want to do a good job during the day if I can help somebody, if I can make a difference. But if I'm not growing myself, I can't help anybody. You know, so if I don't put my oxygen mask on and get it flowing, how am I going to help anybody else? So that's kind of the thing. And there's got to be something bigger than this world. There's got to be next steps. That's what I want to believe. That's what I choose to believe. There's got to be a greater end game. There's got to be something that's amazing. But life's pretty incredible too, that we get to compete and we get to do all these things. And but yeah, that's I'm just sold out to a belief that, like I said, happened in 1992 for me, and still on the pursuit. I'm still screwing up. I'm still could be a better father. I could be a better coach, but I'm thankful to be forgiven and be able to just, get right back up and keep pushing.
My final question for you. You're born in Aberdeen, played sports at Amory under the great Bobby Hall. You've had so many people that's poured into you, and now you're leading Auburn in one of the most successful runs in their baseball history. What do you hope your legacy to be here on the Plains?
Whew. Those are deep. We use 3 words in our program. It's attack, legacy, and vision. Attack needs to be your default. Whenever you're kicked, get back up and just let it be your default and just attack, attack, attack. Dan Gable, the great Iowa wrestling coach, those are the only words he'll say is attack, attack, attack. But that legacy piece is a bigger one. I don't know how I'm going to be remembered. I want to keep stacking blocks. I'm going to let somebody else figure that out. Because if I'm doing it for that, I'm in trouble. And it's crazy that it's one of our words, but I'm even telling the guy that we recruit that's in high school, legacy is one of our words because you don't act like you're already here. Mm-hmm. You got to leave it right there. So that's all I'm trying to do wherever we've been, is just try to, be as good to people as you can, try to stack as many blocks as you can, and then let the dust settle later on. Let somebody else figure that out. I'm just going to use attack as my default. And then the vision piece is I'm going to aim as high as we possibly can. Les Brown's a great motivational speaker, and he says people don't fail because they aim high and miss. It's because they aim low and hit. And one thing I will say from being from Coontail, there's some people who have done some amazing things, but there were people that I cared deeply about that aimed low, and they hit it. They ran right into it. And the vision piece is we should aim as high as we possibly can. I think whoever supports Auburn baseball, you talked about all these renovations and all these great players that make a commitment in their families to believe in our program. And we're aiming for a national championship. I have no regret in saying that. It's really not a boastful statement, but with all this investment and all these people that are helping you, whatever your hands find to do, you need to aim as high as you possibly can. So that's why we have our pursuit, and somebody else needs to be the baseball coach if we're not aiming for the high star.
Mm-hmm. I know y'all's schedules are insanely hectic this time of year. Well, really year round. So I want to thank you for doing this, and I hope we get to do part 2 down the road. And you made a fan of me the last time you guys went to Omaha. We were there covering the SEC schools, and just enjoyed how you dealt with everything. You were always so real and raw at the same time, win or lose. So you made a fan of me, and you've got a fan in Rankin County now. So rooting for you guys from afar, and I hope we get to do this again.
Me too. Thank you, Jason. Good to see somebody from back home.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. So I just count down. I just dive right into them. We do an open, and
I'm just going to be me.
That's exactly what we want. Exactly what we want. Right here? Okay. All right, I'll put my foot right here so I know not to move. All right, 3, 2, and 1.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week for another episode of Audibles with Jason Scarborough.